The market was alive with sound, smell, and movement, a place where voices rose and fell like crashing waves, where the air carried the scent of roasted meat, burning oils, and unwashed bodies, where thousands of feet trampled over dusty stone paths. Merchants shouted loudly, trying to outdo each other. Some waved glittering jewels, others lifted cages filled with strange animals. Buyers pushed and bargained. Guards stood with cold eyes, their weapons shining under the twin suns. In the middle of all this chaos, near the corner where shadows hid the filth of the streets, there was a small raised platform, and on it, chained, like a beast, was a girl. She was not human. Her skin was pale with a faint shimmer like silver dust, her hair long and tangled, but even through the dirt, it glowed faintly under the light. Her eyes were wide and frightened, golden in color, yet dull with exhaustion. Her wrists and ankles were bound with thick chains and a collar bit into her neck. The merchants around her laughed, calling her worthless. They tugged at her chain like she was nothing more than a dog for display. People passed by, some mocking, some whispering, others shaking their heads as if she carried some curse. No one stopped, no one cared. Then, through the crowd, came a human traveler, his boots heavy with dust, his coat torn from long journeys, his face calm but sharp, his eyes moving quickly, as if he measured everything around him. He had no interest in buying slaves, no interest in this cruel market. But his steps slowed when he saw her. The girl lifted her head, weak and trembling. But when her gaze met his, there was a flicker of something, hope. He should have kept walking, should have ignored her like everyone else, yet he could not. His heart tightened when he saw the bruises on her arms, the dirt on her face, the fear in her eyes. As he paused, one of the merchants sneered. "Looking for a pet human? This one is cheap, but you don't want her. She is cursed. She brings nothing but trouble." The human didn't answer. He kept his gaze on the girl, and then, in a voice so quiet that only he could hear, the girl whispered, her lips shaking, "Can you buy me and take me as your slave?" The word struck him harder than any shout could have. He blinked, certain he had heard wrong, but her golden eyes locked on his, begging, pleading. She did not cry. She did not scream. Her voice carried no demand, only desperation. A quiet plea, from someone who had already lost everything. The merchant laughed, tugging the chain to make her stumble forward. "See? Even she knows she's nothing, a chained animal begging for an owner," he mocked. "Take her if you want, though I doubt you'll last a week before you throw her away." The crowd nearby chuckled, some shaking their heads, others muttering cruel jokes. To them this was entertainment. Another broken life on display, but the human did not laugh. He felt the weight of her words echoing inside him. "Buy me. Take me as your slave." Not because she wanted to be owned, but because it was her only chance at freedom from the chains. His jaw tightened. His hand moved slowly to the pouch at his belt. His mind argued against it. He had no reason to involve himself, no reason to spend coin on someone else's problem. Yet his heart told him if he walked away, he would. Never forget those eyes. The merchant leaned closer. "Well, do you want her or not? Make an offer, human. I don't have all day." The girl's lips trembled again. She whispered once more, almost broken, "Please." He breathed deeply. The sound of the market faded for him. The noise, the laughter, the mockery, it all vanished, leaving only the girl chained before him. And in that moment he decided he could not turn away. But even as his hand reached for the coins, a shadow moved in the crowd. Someone else was watching. A figure with dark armor and cold eyes. Someone who shook his head when he saw the human step forward. The human did not notice. Not yet. He only saw the girl and the chains that cut into her skin. The market roared again around them, deals being made, lives being sold. But in this one corner, a silent battle was already beginning, because saving her would not be as simple as buying her. It would mean stepping into something far larger, far darker, and the human had just taken his first step, without even knowing it. The girl looked at him one last time, and for the first time in many years her eyes held a spark of hope, fragile but alive, and the market of chains did not yet know it, but something had just changed. The human's hand hovered near his belt pouch, The coins inside clinking softly. The merchant leaned forward with greedy eyes, his grin showing yellowed teeth. "So you are interested after all, human, good choice, but nothing in this market is free," he said. The girl was still on her knees, her golden eyes locked on the traveler. She did not speak again, as if even whispering had taken the last of her strength, yet her silence screamed louder than any cry. The human drew out a few silver coins, rough and scratched from travel. He placed them in his palm and said calmly, "This should be enough." "You said she was worthless, cursed, then let me take her off your hands." The merchant's laugh cracked through the air, sharp and cruel. "Worthless, yes. But cursed? Oh, curses fetch their own price, human. You think I'll just give her away?" He shook his head, spitting to the side. "No, not today. She is rare. Look at her skin, her eyes. Fragile, yes, but she carries a story, and stories cost more." The human narrowed his eyes. "You just mocked her as nothing, now you call her rare?" "Business, human, business," the merchant replied, raising his voice to catch the attention of others. "Who else wants this girl? A chained alien beauty, cursed or not, a fine prize for a master with strong hands." The crowd stirred, whispers rising, and from between them stepped another bidder, a tall alien with smooth blue scales, his robes decorated with gold threads, his voice slow and cold. "I'll offer 20 credits. Gasps spread. The price had suddenly leapt far above what the human expected. His coins would barely reach 5. The merchant's grin widened. "Now it gets interesting," he said, turning to the human. "Do you match it? Or is your pity too cheap?" The girl lowered her head, her chains rattling, her lips moved in silence, maybe praying, maybe cursing fate. The human clenched his fist around the coins. 20 credits was a trap. No ordinary buyer would spend that much on someone considered cursed. It meant someone didn't want him to take her. Someone wanted her for reasons beyond slavery. He spoke firmly. 10 credits, fair enough for someone you called worthless. You insult her, then try to raise her price. I won't play your game." The scaled alien hissed softly, his golden eyes narrowing. 15 credits, he said, his tone heavy as if daring the human to challenge him. The crowd leaned closer, enjoying the tension. For them this was theater, life and dignity reduced to numbers and coins. The merchant rubbed his hands together, his eyes shining with greed. "Oh, much better, human. Do you yield?" The human glanced at the girl. She raised her eyes slightly, just enough to show that fragile spark of hope again, and he realized walking away would kill more than her body. It would destroy her spirit completely. He took a slow breath, then said, "She's not a jewel, not a treasure chest. She is flesh and blood. I will give you 12, not more." The merchant hesitated. Coins mattered to him, but the scaled alien stepped closer, his shadow long, his voice colder. 20, final offer, and if the human dares more, I will double it." The human felt the shift in the air. This was no longer a simple bargain. This was a silent war. The scaled alien did not want the girl sold to him at any price. The reason was hidden, but the danger was clear. "Why does she matter to you?" the human asked, his tone sharp. The alien's smile was thin. "Why does she matter to you?" Neither answered. The crowd murmured louder. The merchant laughed nervously, sensing gold in the tension. "Oh, this is delicious. Perhaps I should auction her properly, let the highest price win." The girl shivered, her chains scraping the platform as she moved slightly closer to the human. Even her broken body sought protection beside him. The human looked at her again, then back at the merchant. He threw all the coins he had into the man's hands, the silver clattering like falling rain. "That's 15. More than enough for a girl you called cursed. Take it and end this." The merchant's greedy fingers closed over the pile, his eyes glowing with hunger. 15, a fine deal, he said quickly, before the scaled alien could answer. The alien's hand twitched, his smile vanished, his voice turned sharp. "You dare steal her from me with scraps of silver?" The human stood tall, his coat shifting in the wind, his voice calm but hard. "I don't steal, I buy. And the bargain is sealed." The merchant nodded nervously, already hiding the coins in his pouch, afraid to lose them. "A deal is a deal," he muttered, though his eyes flicked nervously to the scaled alien. The girl's chain was shoved into the human's hand. the cold metal biting into his skin. She stumbled toward him, weak but alive, her golden eyes rising slowly to meet his. The scaled alien stared at them both, his gaze sharp as a blade. He turned away with a hiss, but not before whispering words the human caught. "You don't know what you've bought, fool. But soon, you will, and when you do, you will regret it." The crowd scattered. The show was over. The market noise returned, but the air around the human and the girl stayed heavy. He had won her, but not peace. The bargain had only begun a darker game, and somewhere in the shadows enemies were already moving. The human led the girl away from the market, his grip firm on the chain that now linked them, but every step she took was unsteady, her thin legs trembling as if they could give out at any moment. The noise of the marketplace faded behind them, yet the echo of laughter and cruel whispers still clung to her ears. They moved through narrow alleys where the smell of rot mixed with damp stone. The girl kept her head low, not daring to meet anyone's eyes. She knew people were watching, not because she mattered, but because she was chained, a slave walking beside a free man. The human finally stopped near a ruined building, its walls cracked, its roof half fallen. It was quiet there, hidden from the crowds. He looked around carefully before leading her inside. "Sit," he said softly, not as a command but as a request. He loosened the chain so she could rest against the wall. The girl lowered herself slowly, the metal collar biting into her neck as she moved. Her hands shook as she touched her arms. The skin was bruised, raw from where the chains had rubbed. The human crouched in front of her, his eyes sharp but not cruel. "Why did you beg me to buy you?" he asked quietly. "You could have asked anyone, but you chose me. Why?" Her lips parted, but no words came out. Her voice had been used, too much and too little both at the same time. She swallowed hard, then whispered, "Because you stopped, you looked at me. No one else did." The human studied her, then reached for the chain at her wrists. Carefully he lifted the metal, and that was when he noticed it. Strange marks burned into her skin, not simple bruises or cuts, but lines, symbols that glowed faintly when touched by light, like scars left by fire yet alive with a strange shimmer. He frowned, brushing his fingers near them without pressing. "What is this?" he muttered. The girl jerked back, pulling her arms close, her golden eyes wide with fear. "Don't touch them," she whispered quickly. "Please, don't." "They're not normal," he said firmly. "These aren't just wounds. Someone carved them into you. But why?" Her body shook. She pressed her arms against her chest, hiding the marks. "They chained me because of them. They said I carry danger. They said I am cursed. That's why they treat me like an animal." "Cursed?" he repeated, his voice low. "Do you believe that?" Her eyes filled with tears. She shook her head, then nodded, confused and broken. "I don't know. But I know they hunt me because of it. Everyone wants what's inside me." The human's gaze hardened. "What's inside you?" Her lips trembled. Silence stretched between them, only the sound of dripping water from the broken roof filled the space. Finally, she whispered, "An amulet. Hidden. Sealed into me. So no one could take it. My mother did it before she died. She said it would keep it safe. But instead, it made me a target." The human felt the weight of her words, an amulet sealed into her body. Something powerful enough to make slavers and nobles chase her. Something worth branding her with burning marks. He leaned back, thinking. His instincts told him this was far more dangerous than he imagined, but when he looked at her again, shivering and chained, he knew turning away was no longer possible. Before he could speak, a sound echoed outside, boots scraping on stone, voices whispering, in a language he did not understand. The girl froze, her body stiff with fear. "They found us," she whispered, her voice breaking. "The hunters, they never stop." The human stood quickly, his hand going to the knife at his belt. His eyes narrowed toward the broken doorway. Shadows moved outside, more than one, waiting, watching. The girl pulled the chain close, curling herself into the corner. "Leave me," she whispered urgently. "They only want me. If you stay, you'll die too. Go, please." He turned sharply to her, his voice firm. "I didn't buy you to abandon you." Her eyes widened. No one had ever said that to her. No one had ever refused to let her go to her fate. Outside, a voice called out in a heavy tone. "Human. Give us the girl. She is not yours. She belongs to the House of Scales. Hand her over and walk away alive." The human's jaw tightened. He stepped closer to the doorway, his knife glinting faintly. "If she belongs to anyone, she belongs to herself," he muttered. Though he knew they wouldn't care for such words, the girl's heart raced. Her marks on her arms burned faintly as if reacting to danger. She pulled, her knees to her chest, whispering, "They will kill you. They will take me. You don't understand what they'll do." The human glanced back at her, and for the first time, he gave her a small, steady smile. "Then we'll make sure they don't get the chance." The shadows outside grew larger. The hunters were closing in. But inside the broken shelter, something shifted. The fragile spark in the girl's eyes began to grow. For the first time in years, she wasn't facing the hunters alone, and the marks on her skin, glowing faintly in the dark, seemed to pulse as if waiting, as if ready to awaken something long hidden. The human tightened his grip on the knife, and the girl whispered one last time, almost in disbelief, "You're really not leaving me? Not now," he said firmly. "Not ever." The footsteps drew closer, and the fight was about to begin. But in that ruined shelter, a new bond had been forged, one stronger than chains, stronger than fear, and the hunters outside had no idea what awaited them. The night swallowed the ruined building in silence, but outside the shadows moved like predators waiting for their chance. The girl clung to her chain, her body trembling, her golden eyes fixed on the doorway where danger waited. The human's grip tightened around his knife, his ears listening carefully. He counted at least 4, maybe 5 men circling, their footsteps too heavy to be thieves, their voices too sharp to be merchants. These were hunters, trained to capture, to drag away lives like hers, the girl whispered, her voice shaking. "You cannot fight them, they are too many, please. Just leave me. They will not follow you if you walk away now." He glanced back at her, his expression calm but fierce. "I told you already, I will not leave you." Before she could protest again, a figure stepped into the doorway, tall and broad, scales shining faintly in the moonlight, armor strapped across his chest, a long spear in his hand, his voice cold. "Human, you paid your coins, but your bargain was stolen. She does not belong to you. Hand her over." The human straightened, standing between the hunter and the girl. "She doesn't belong to you either," he said sharply. The hunter hissed, his eyes narrowing. "You do not understand what you hold. She is dangerous. She carries what is not meant for your kind. You think she begged you out of trust? She begged you out of desperation because no one else would be so foolish." The human said nothing, but his grip on the knife grew tighter. Another shadow appeared behind the first, then another, until the doorway was crowded with hunters, their weapons glinting, their eyes all fixed on the girl. The girl's body shook harder. She whispered, "They will take me alive, but they will kill you first." The human stepped forward, his voice low. "Then we don't give them the chance." In one swift motion, he kicked the broken wooden beam leaning against the wall. It crashed down, filling the doorway with a spray of dust and splinters. The hunters hissed in surprise, giving him the moment he needed. "Come," he shouted, grabbing the girl's arm, pulling her to her feet. Her legs almost gave out, but his strength dragged her forward, through a narrow crack in the wall that he had noticed earlier. The girl stumbled but followed, her chains rattling. They slipped into the darkness of the alley. The hunters roared behind them, breaking through the fallen wood. The pursuit had begun. The alley twisted like a maze, walls leaning close on both sides, the ground wet with old rain. The human pulled, her faster, his eyes sharp. Every turn he measured in seconds, every shadow he studied for an escape. The girl gasped for air, her chains heavy, her body weak. But she clung to his sleeve, her fear pushing her forward. "They won't stop," she whispered. "They never stop." "Then we keep moving," he replied, his voice steady, though his own lungs burned with effort. Behind them, the hunters' footsteps echoed louder, spears scraping the walls, their voices snarling. "Corner them!" The girl must not. Escape! The human ducked into another alley, pulling the girl into a narrow passage so tight their shoulders brushed both walls. He kicked over a pile of crates behind them, slowing the hunters, but he knew it would not hold them long. The girl stumbled. Again, falling to her knees, he crouched quickly, lifting her with one arm, carrying her weight even as his own body strained. You can't carry me, she whispered weakly. I'll slow you down. Leave me, please. You are not slowing me, he said firmly, his voice harsh. You are the reason I run. Her golden eyes widened at his words, and for a heartbeat, she forgot her fear. They burst out of the alley into a wider street, lanterns swinging above, merchants packing up their stalls. The crowd gasped as the human ran past, dragging the chained girl, and then shouted in alarm as the hunters stormed. After them! Stop them! One hunter roared. The girl is stolen property. Some townsfolk stepped back in fear. Others spat, but none helped. To them she was only a slave, and he was only a fool protecting her. The human spotted a bridge ahead, its wooden planks stretching over a dark canal. He sprinted toward it, but halfway across he stopped, turning sharply to the girl. Hold on to me, he ordered. Her hands clung to his shoulder, confused. Why? Because, he said, taking a deep breath. We're not giving them the chase they expect. He leapt over the side of the bridge, plunging into the black water below. The girl gasped, choking as cold water closed around them, but his arm held her tight, pulling her up, his strokes strong as he dragged her beneath the bridge. Above, the hunters shouted in confusion, their footsteps pounding across the bridge. But the dark water hid the fugitives. The girl coughed, clinging to him, her hair plastered to her face, her golden eyes wide with terror. You're insane, she whispered. But you saved me. He smiled faintly, though his chest heaved for air. Not saved yet, but alive. They clung to the beams under the bridge, listening as the hunters searched above, the night air filled with curses and threats. The girl pressed close, whispering, They will keep coming. They will hunt us until the end. You should not have chosen me. The human looked at her, the chains heavy between them, the faint glow of her hidden marks shimmering under the moonlight, reflected in the water, and he said simply, Then let them come. I'll make sure they never take you again. The pursuit was not over. It had only just begun, but beneath the bridge, hidden from sight, a fragile hope sparked brighter, stronger, for the first time the girl believed maybe she was not just running to survive, maybe she was running toward freedom. The water dripped steadily from their clothes as the human pulled the girl out from beneath the bridge. Both shivering in the night air, the city lights glowed faintly behind them, but here in the quiet edge of the canal, only shadows kept them company. The girl's chains clinked softly as she sat down on the ground, her breath shallow, her body weak from the chase. Her golden eyes watched him as he stood nearby, scanning the streets for signs of pursuit. They will come again, she whispered, her voice fragile. They never stop until they have what they want. The human turned to her, his jaw set. Then it's time you tell me exactly what they want. She lowered her gaze, her fingers brushing over the strange glowing marks burned into her arms. Shame filled her expression as if the truth itself was a wound she could not show. He crouched in front of her, his voice steady. If I am to protect you, I must know. No more secrets, girl. Tell me what it is. For a long moment, silence filled the space. Only the sound of the water lapping against the stones and her chains shifting broke it. Then slowly, her lips parted. My mother, before she died, she gave me something. Her voice shook as she spoke. An amulet. Ancient. Older than my people. Older than even the stars we know. She said it carried power. Power too great for anyone to control. The human frowned. And she gave it to you? She didn't give it to me, the girl whispered, tears forming in her eyes. She sealed it inside me, into my body, hidden where no one could steal it. She used her last strength to bind it with her blood and mine. I was only a child, I didn't understand, but they knew, and so they chained me, called me cursed, treated me like an animal because they wanted what I carried. The human's eyes darkened. He now understood the strange marks, the glow that shimmered faintly under her skin. They were not just scars, they were seals, bindings holding something far older and far more dangerous, and if they take it, he asked quietly. Her voice cracked. Then entire worlds will burn. The amulet can bend energy, shatter fleets, bring destruction to anyone who controls it. My mother said it was never meant to be used, only hidden. But I became the hiding place. She trembled, curling into herself. Do you see now? That is why I begged you to buy me, why I begged anyone to take me, not because I wanted to be a slave, but because it was the only way to escape them, the only way to live long, enough to find someone who could help me. The human's chest tightened. He thought back to her words in the market. Can you buy me and take me as your slave? He had thought it a cry of desperation from a broken girl, but it was more. It was her only chance at survival. She looked up at him, tears shining in her golden eyes. But you should leave me now before it's too late, before they come again, because when they do, they will not stop at you. They will destroy anyone who stands in their way. The human studied her carefully, then shook his head slowly. You want me to believe that your life has no worth, that because you carry this burden, you are doomed to chains forever. But I do not believe that. Her lips parted in shock. You don't? No, he said firmly, his eyes hard with conviction. You are not a curse, you are not an animal, you are someone who deserves freedom. And if this amulet is so dangerous, then I will stand with you to protect it. To protect you. Her body shook, not from fear now, but from the weight of his words. No one had ever said that to her. No one had ever seen her as more than the chains around her neck. Before she could answer, a sharp whistle cut through the night air. Both of them froze. The human's hand went instantly to his knife. He pulled her behind him. From the darkness of the far street, torches flickered. Hunters were spreading again, their voices echoing. The human has her. Find them. Alive or dead, bring them both. The girl's heart pounded. They're coming. Then we keep moving, he said, his tone calm but steel hard. He grabbed her chain and pulled her forward, but his grip was no longer that of a master dragging a slave. It was a protector, guiding someone who mattered. They darted into the night, weaving between old walls and silent streets. The girl's legs weak, but her spirit burning stronger with every step. Her golden eyes lifted to him as he led her. And for the first time, hope did not feel like a cruel dream. It felt real because he had seen the truth inside her and had not turned away. The hunters shouted behind them, their torches glowing like angry stars. But in the darkness, two figures kept moving. A human, who refused to abandon, and a girl who finally dared to believe she was more than chains. And somewhere deep inside her, the amulet pulsed faintly, as if awakening to the bond between them, as if recognizing that its power was no longer hidden in despair, but in defiance. The truth had been revealed, and now, nothing would ever be the same again. The night stretched on like an endless hunt, the sound of boots and voices chasing them through the twisting streets. The girl's chains rattled with every step, her breath sharp and uneven, yet she forced herself forward. Guided by the human's unshakable grip, they turned corner after corner, but the hunters were clever, always closing in, their torches glowing like red eyes in the dark, their shouts carrying across the alleys. The girl is near. The human cannot hide her forever. The human's face remained steady, his knife glinting faintly in his hand, though inside he felt the weight of exhaustion pressing on his muscles, his mind racing for a plan. He knew they could not keep running forever. At some point, they would have to face what hunted them. At last he spotted an old courtyard, its gate broken, its walls high enough to shield them for a moment. He pulled the girl inside, pressing her gently against the wall. Stay low, he whispered, her golden eyes filled with fear. You cannot fight them. There are too many. They will kill you. Please just run. Save yourself before they come. He crouched in front of her, his eyes burning with fierce determination. Listen to me, I am not running. If they want you, they'll have to step over me first. Her lips trembled, tears sliding down her cheeks. Why? Why would you risk your life for me? You don't even know me. The human gave a small, grim smile. Because no one else ever has, and because you are worth more than chains, more than their greed, more than their curses. She stared at him, her heart pounding, her voice breaking. "You'll die." "Then I die standing, not running," he replied firmly. The first torchlight spilled into the courtyard. Shadows stretched long against the walls. The hunters poured in, their armor clinking, their weapons sharp and ready, at least 6 of them. Now surrounding the human and the chained girl, the lead hunter, a tall scaled figure with a cruel smile, stepped forward. "Foolish human," he hissed. "You think your small blade will stop us? Hand over the girl and maybe we let you crawl away alive." The human raised his knife, his stance calm but unyielding. "If you want her, come and take her." The hunters laughed, their voices cold, their eyes fixed on him as if he were already dead. The girl clutched the chain at her neck, whispering desperately, "Please, please don't fight them, they will tear you apart." But he only glanced back at her, his voice low but steady. "Trust me." The first hunter lunged, his spear cutting through the air, but the human sidestepped quickly, the blade grazing his coat instead of his flesh. With a swift motion, he slashed his knife across the hunter's arm, drawing blood. The scaled warrior hissed in rage, stumbling back. The others rushed forward, but the human moved with speed born not from training but from raw survival, ducking low, kicking one in the knee, smashing another into the wall. His movements sharp and unpredictable, earthborn cunning against alien strength. Still, they were too many. Their spears struck again and again, one cut across his shoulder, another tore his sleeve, blood dripped from his arm, but his grip on the knife did not falter. The girl cried out, her chains rattling as she tried to move toward him. "Stop! Please stop, you'll be killed!" He shouted back, his voice fierce. "I won't let them take you!" The hunters circled, snarling. One of them laughed cruelly. "You bleed, human. You cannot last much longer. Your courage is wasted." The human wiped the blood from his face, his eyes sharp. Better to bleed for something worth saving than to live as nothing. His words stunned the girl, her heart breaking and strengthening all at once. She had never heard anyone speak of her like that, never been worth fighting for. The hunters attacked again, the courtyard filled with the clash of metal and the growls of battle. The human fought like a cornered wolf, each strike desperate but filled with fire. Then in the chaos, something changed. The girl's marks began to glow brighter, the strange symbols on her arms pulsing with light, reacting to her fear, to his defiance. The hunters noticed, their eyes widening. "The seal, it stirs," one shouted. The girl gasped, clutching her arms. The light burned against her skin, but deep inside she felt it. Power awakening, not from rage, not from despair, but from the bond between her and the human. The lead hunter roared, "Kill the human! Take the girl alive before the seal breaks." But the human stood tall, though bloodied and bruised, his knife raised once more, his voice strong. "You'll have to go through me, and I promise none of you will walk away the same." The girl's tears fell freely, her voice trembling. "Why won't you leave me?" He glanced back at her for only a moment, his eyes filled with unshakable resolve. "Because you are not a curse. You are not a slave. You are someone worth protecting." The hunters surged again. The human braced himself, and the light from the girl's marks grew brighter, filling the courtyard with a strange golden glow. For the first time, the hunters hesitated, fear flashing in their eyes, because they realized this was no longer just a fight with a stubborn human. Something far older, far more powerful, was awakening, and it was no longer chained. The human, bloodied but unbroken, tightened his grip on his knife, ready to make his stand, and the girl, glowing with the hidden power of the amulet within her, realized she was not alone anymore. The hunters thought they were the predators, but tonight, they would learn what it meant to corner a human who refused to yield, and the battle for her freedom had only just begun. The courtyard burned with golden light, the girl's skin glowing where the mark shone like fire etched into her flesh. The hunters froze for a heartbeat, their cruel smiles faltering, their weapons trembling in their hands. The human stood before her, blood dripping down his arm. His coat torn, his knife gripped tight, he looked more like a shadow than a man, but his stance was steady, unbroken, unafraid. The lead hunter hissed, his scaled face twisted with fury. "The seal is waking, stop her. Kill the human, bind the girl before it's too late." The hunters lunged again, their spears flashing, but the human met them head on, his knife cutting sharp, his movements raw and desperate but filled with fire. He ducked under one strike, slammed his shoulder into another, knocked him sprawling, his every motion fueled by one thought: they will not take her. Behind him, the girl clutched her arms, the golden light spreading across her body, not burning her now, but filling her with strength she had never known. Her fear and despair fought against it, but the human's voice, his stand, gave her courage. The hunters pressed harder, three at once striking at the human, their weapons slashing through the air. He deflected one, rolled under another, but a spear tore across his ribs, pain searing through him. He staggered, blood spilling down his side. The girl cried out, her golden eyes wide with terror. "Stop, please don't hurt him." Her voice echoed strangely, carried by the glow, and the air itself seemed to tremble. The hunters faltered as the light around her flared brighter, the marks burning like suns. The lead hunter roared in anger. "Fool girl, you will destroy yourself. That power is not yours to hold." But the human forced himself upright, his voice rough. "It belongs to her, not to you." The hunters lunged again, but this time, the glow from the girl burst outward in a wave of energy, invisible yet heavy like a storm wind. It slammed into the hunters, throwing them back across the courtyard, their weapons clattering to the ground. Silence followed, broken only by the girl's uneven breaths and the human's labored gasps. The glow faded slightly, leaving her trembling but still standing. The lead hunter rose slowly, fury in his eyes. "You don't know what you've done, human. That amulet will eat her alive. You cannot protect her from it, but we can. Give her to us and live, or keep her and burn with her." The human shook his head, his knife still raised, though his arm shook with pain. "I won't hand her to butchers who see only chains. If she burns, then I burn with her, but she will not face it alone." The girl's eyes filled with tears, her voice breaking. "Why? Why do you keep saying that?" "I am nothing. I am cursed. Stop," he said sharply, cutting her words, his gaze fierce as he turned to her. "You are not nothing. You are not a curse. You are someone who deserves to choose her own life, not be chained like a dog, not be sold like meat tonight, you decide." She stared at him, trembling, the hunters groaning as they struggled to rise, the glow in her marks pulsing with every beat of her heart. Her whole life had been chains and cruelty. Every day told she was cursed, worthless, doomed. But here was a human, bloodied and broken, standing only for her. The lead hunter raised his spear again, snarling, "Last chance, human! Step aside." The girl lifted her head, golden eyes blazing, and for the first time her voice did not tremble. "No," she said, her tone clear, strong, echoing across the courtyard. "I am not your slave. I am not your curse. I am free." The glow exploded outward, golden fire bursting from her skin. The hunters screamed as the wave of light crashed into them, their bodies thrown against the walls, weapons shattering, armor cracking. The courtyard shook with the force, and then silence. When the light faded, the hunters lay scattered, groaning, broken, their torches extinguished. The lead hunter crawled to his knees, his scaled face twisted with rage and fear. "This isn't over," he hissed. "That power will consume you, girl, and when it does, no human will save you." The human stepped forward, his knife dripping with blood, his voice low and dangerous. "Leave now, or you won't have another chance." The hunter's eyes burned, but he staggered to his feet, calling the others. They dragged themselves away into the shadows, their threats fading into the night. The courtyard was quiet again. Only the sound of the girl's chains clinking softly and the human's uneven breathing remained. She turned to him, tears spilling down her cheeks. "You nearly died for me." "Why?" He lowered his knife, his hand pressing against his bleeding ribs, his face pale but his eyes steady. "Because no one should ever have to beg to be treated as human, because you are worth more than they will ever understand." She fell to her knees, her chains rattling, her golden eyes shining with both sorrow and hope. "You didn't buy a slave," she whispered, her voice breaking into a sob. "You gave me freedom." He crouched beside her, his hand gently resting on her shoulder. "Then keep it, guard it, don't let anyone chain you again." The marks on her skin glowed faintly, no longer burning but warm, as if the amulet inside her had accepted her choice, as if it recognized her not as a prison, but as its keeper. Together, They rose, stepping out of the courtyard. The night. Sky stretched above them, endless and full of stars. The hunters would come again. The galaxy would not forget the girl who carried the hidden amulet. But she was no longer alone. And the human, though bloodied and scarred, walked beside her, not as her master but as her protector. The final choice had been made, the chains broken forever, and in that moment, a fragile hope was born that even in a galaxy of cruelty, freedom was still possible.